So, with that, we do have some wonderful guest speakers with us here today from Marsh. We have Melissa Loic, Chicago office leader and risk management segment team leader at Marsh in the Chicago office. We also have Audrey Streifler, AVP, Associate Client Executive. So, thank you both, Melissa, Audrey, for being here with us today. And with that, Audrey, I will turn it over to you to share your screen and say hello.
Fantastic. Thank you. And hello to everyone. Thank you again for taking the time to join Melissa and I. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with you about networking in partnership with Spencer. Like was stated before, my name is Audrey Streifler. I'm joined by Melissa Loic. As we progress through the presentation, we will share more about ourselves, but for now, we'd like to encourage you to actively participate in this session. So please, throw stuff in the chat box, raise your hand. We'd like this to be a super engaging webinar, and we'd like to make it a conversation. So without further ado, we will hop into our agenda. So firstly, we will touch on building a network for life. We have a few really powerful statistics outlining the importance of making connections in the insurance industry that we are very excited to share with you. Then we will hear some insight from leaders Melissa has gathered from her very own network to share with us today. Number 3 on the list, you'll see making contacts. So we have some practical tips and techniques for expanding your network and staying in touch that emphasizes both the need for in-person connection and online connection. Number 4, tell me about yourself. This is the question of the day, the dreaded question. I know this is something I really struggled with for a while, and how to answer, how to talk about yourself. So we'll be walking through that with you. Then we'll discuss how to flip the script. People love to share about themselves, so we'll touch on when someone asks you about yourself, how to take the time to then flip it around and ask them some questions as well. Before we wrap up and take any questions at the end, although you can please feel free to ask any questions throughout, we will touch on a few resources and events that Melissa and I are aware of, but this just truly scratches the surface of what will be available to you in this industry. All right. So these are some of the statistics on here that I touched on in the agenda. We live in such a digitally and AI-enabled work environment, but would really like to highlight that these trust-based human connections are crucial. I have experienced this. I know it's a big deal, but seeing these statistics below were even shocking to me. 85% of all jobs are filled through networking, and face-to-face requests are 34 times more successful. I don't know about you, but that makes me want to network and see people in person a lot. The connections you make now are also the ones that can last you your entire career. I know Melissa and I both even have, people on the phone today who are dialing in to support us that we've stayed in touch with throughout the years. But we would like to highlight that ensuring these connections beyond your initial meeting is key. So stay in touch. When you meet folks, be sure to follow up, connect on LinkedIn, and we'll get some more into those tips and tricks later on. Lastly, the insurance industry wants and needs you to be successful. This is just another incredible statistic, I think. Over the next 15 years, about 400,000 open positions will be left unfilled, leaving what's being coined the retirement cliff. So there's going to be lots of open positions, and people in the industry truly do want and need you to be successful. I will pass it off to Melissa now to touch on what she found in speaking to her network.
Thanks, Audrey. So one of the things that I did as we prepared to talk with all of you about networking, and I could talk about my own experiences, the approaches I use, but what I thought was more powerful was to reach into my network. I talked with dozens of risk management leaders and insurance executives, and I asked them about how they've used their network and what advice they might have for each of you. The first question, lower right, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important has your network been in building your career? Of the dozens of individuals I spoke with, the average score was a 9 plus, technically a 9.3 based on the latest average. What I heard is absolutely, it's been a 10 for you. I see that. Absolutely, what we hear is that a network is fundamental to the success of your career. Being good technically, having a discipline where you are an expert, that's table stakes. But those relationships that are based on trust, where you can have the challenging conversations, where you can drive innovation, that is truly what this industry is all about. The relationships you build today last a lifetime. So, given that everyone I talked with said, yep, my network is foundational to my success, I asked them, what advice do you have for rising professionals? The first is it was the acknowledgement of it can be a little intimidating, right? To start building a network. Um, when you go into a room for the first time at an industry event and there's hundreds of people and it seems like they all know each other, it's because they've been in the industry for 25 years and it can be a little daunting. So start with the connections you have. You do that by everyone who's on this phone call, actually the perfect example of, hey, yeah, connect with me. I'm now a connection you have. But also all of the university students that you currently go to school with, everyone that you intern with, the alumni in your network. Start there and expand out. Those are people who will be eager to support you as you make connections. As you reach out to each of them, actually going down to the next one with the question mark, ask how you can help them. Ask if you can go along. Ask if you can sit in on a call. Ask if they have advice. Connecting in, showing you're eager to help goes a long way. Be deliberate. Outreach can feel daunting, but if you set it up into digestible chunks, particularly if you're an introvert, where this may be something you need to schedule, you need to prepare for, be deliberate in that outreach. Think about, how am I going to reach out to a new person this week? How am I going to connect with them? One of the most commonly recommended tips that I heard from executives that I think have incredible networks is schedule one coffee a week with someone new, with no other reason than to say, I think you're fascinating and I'd love to hear more about what you do. If you do that in a year, you'll make 50 connections. In a decade, you could make 500. It's a very important way to build that one-on-one rapport. Get involved in the insurance industry. Come to things like this, right? Now you're connected with Spencer. Get involved with RIMS. We're going to talk about some of the ways you can get involved a bit later on. As you meet people within the industry, as you have those cups of coffee, and as you talk with connections you already have, ask them, if you were me, who else would you talk with? Develop those loose links by an additional Kevin Bacon connection. And if you're intimidated by some of these social and networking events, bring a friend. There's strength in numbers. And this industry, we need every single one of you, okay? There are 400,000 openings coming your way. Bring a friend. Get them interested about the insurance industry. And then this last one was actually of all the tips I received, my favorite. And I believe the individual who shared it with me may be on the call today. She's someone I admire greatly for her ability to build a network. What she said is, you need to adopt mentors. That means finding individuals who you admire for their technical expertise, for their depth of knowledge in a specific area, for the communities with whom they're connected, and adopt them as a mentor for that space so that when you have a challenge, you can get different perspectives. Someone has great quantitative discipline, someone who has great understanding of a specific line of coverage, someone who will help you look at it differently. Those different viewpoints, those different mentors will make you a more rounded professional. Then I asked all of my interviewees, what makes someone stand out when you first meet them? Okay, first of all, the good news is you can all do these things, because fundamentally what I heard is just be yourself. We are so excited that you want to join us in the insurance industry. We want you to come on this journey. Audrey said we want you to be successful. I go so far as to say we want you to be wildly successful. Not only do we want it, we need it. This industry is fascinating, but we are being called to address existential challenges, geopolitical changes, supply chain disruption, climate change. So many things are occurring where we are being asked to lead. We need you. We need your perspectives. So what makes someone stand out as we look to grow? Active listening and engagement. Big shout out to everyone who's already engaging in the chat sidebar. You're actively listening, you're engaged. Thank you. Confidence. Okay, this sounds hard, but it's just confidence in that you are interesting and we want you there. Confidence that you are someone who can bring something to this industry and that you have something to say. And part of the way you can show that confidence is be curious. As I look at rising professionals, this is something that we fundamentally need. We can teach you the language of insurance. We can teach you how to underwrite. We can teach you how to be brokers. But curiosity comes from within. Ask questions, show a desire to learn. Demonstrate initiative and a go-getter mentality. Showing up goes a long way. But asking, hey, tell me about yourself, or asking that first question. Do your research. This is less daunting than it seems. If you're getting ready to go to an event, look at who else is attending. Do research on the organization. Look at someone's LinkedIn page. Prepare a question that shows that you've learned a little bit about the organization and have taken an interest in the work that individual may be doing. Contribute to the conversation. We do not expect you to know everything. I can tell you each day I am reminded of how little I know, and I seem to know less and less every day as the amount of information in the world increases exponentially. Contribute. Help us think about things in a different way. And then again, this goes back to be willing to support others. Bring a friend along. Bring a peer, bring a colleague to an event. One of the things I always say is insurance is a team sport, okay? We need all of you. Audrey, next slide.
All righty. So one of the most powerful ways you can make contacts in the industry is by attending the industry events themselves. Whether it be virtual, like we are here today, or in person, with some of those events we have on the slide there, like REMS or RRP, which is Rising Risk Professionals. There are plenty of events for you to attend and meet folks. We also wanted to note that students can frequently attend for free, so please reach out. There's always going to be, someone who wants to get you in the door. As you make contacts, note who you meet. It's super important whether, I pull out my phone in the Notes app and quickly jot their name down if I didn't have a moment to add them on LinkedIn, or whether you can just add them on LinkedIn right there. It is very pivotal to be able to then follow up offline and engage on that personal level. Now, I would like to pass it off to Melissa to discuss our question of the day. So tell me about yourself.
Right. So tell me about yourself. This is the one question you should be able to nail because you are the only person who can be you. But believe it or not, it's incredibly challenging on the spot to sometimes describe who you are. So this is one of those where Audrey and I actually challenged ourselves a little bit as we were working on this, and we're going to give you some examples in a minute. But so tell me about yourself, okay? Practice. If you're in university, be prepared to tell about your university and your major, when you graduate, what you're looking for. I encourage you to do two versions of tell me about yourself. The first is the elevator pitch, okay? This is literally you're in the elevator going from the first floor to the 12th, and someone says, oh, what do you do? that basic summary that you want to convey for then and to then use to initiate a follow-up conversation. The second is maybe where you're grabbing a cup of coffee. It's a little bit more of an extended period of time, the 3 to 4 minute story. Okay? Practice telling people your story. Practice telling it to yourself, the mirror, your friends. Give feedback. And then be prepared to have follow-up topics for a conversation. Anything you have in your elevator pitch or your story, be prepared to get follow-up questions on. One of the things I can tell you is your lives are interesting and fascinating. Do not doubt that. We want to hear about them. Just looking at what's going into the chat bar here, I see individuals who made a career change from being like a math teacher and a coach and are now doing construction underwriting. I'd love to hear about how you made that transition and why. Or as I'm looking with folks that are studying quantitative risk analysis, how did you find that as an area to study? We have folks who, career changing, who live in Bogota, Colombia. Wow, what compelled you to change a career? What are you finding as you get into this new industry space? You're fascinating, and we want to hear about you. So be prepared for follow-up questions because they are being brought to you because we want to know what makes you stand out and how you're unique. Okay, Audrey, next slide. Okay, so now we're going to show you some in practice, okay? In summary, what you always want to do is introduce yourself, summarize what you do, or if you are in university, what you are studying, highlight a little bit of what you want, and then finish with a call to action that engages the other person, kind of gives them a prompt, okay, of what to say next. We're going to do a couple examples. Audrey's going to do one for her current state. I'll do one for mine as well, which is why we didn't really introduce ourselves up front. No need to be redundant. But then we will get into Audrey giving an example of what she would have said when she was in university for both the 30-second and the 3-minute summary, okay? So Audrey, tell me about yourself.
Well, hi, Melissa. My name is Audrey Streifler, and I'm an associate client executive at Marsh. I play a vital role in delivering exceptional client service and driving business growth. I work closely with senior client executives to understand client needs, develop risk management strategies, and provide innovative insurance and risk management solutions. With a focus on building strong client relationships, I collaborate with Marsh's internal teams to deliver tailored risk management programs, negotiate with insurers, and ensure seamless execution of client initiatives. In this role, I've had the opportunity to make a meaningful impact, contribute to client success, and grow my career in the dynamic field of risk management and insurance. With that, I guess we should take our own advice, Melissa. I would love to hear more about you and flip the script, so to speak. So could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Melissa Loic. I am a Spencer Scholarship alumni. I today am the Chicago office head for Marsh, and I also oversee global risk management clients in the greater Chicagoland area. My areas of focus are what I call the 4 C's. It's colleagues, clients, carriers, and community. I continually look for ways to engage those 4 areas as we drive innovation and growth in the risk management realm. I'd love to hear ways that we can work together to solve the biggest challenges this industry faces and grow together. So that's what I would do. Little pitch. Who am I? Connecting with my audience. Spencer, we all have that in common today. What I do today, how I look at the world, and then a call to action. How can we solve things together? How can we work together? And yes, I practiced that, and that's okay. And you should too. All right, so now Audrey, I'd love to hear how you would have given this pitch when you were a student. Tell me about yourself.
All right, so hi there. My name is Audrey Streifler, and I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm a senior attending business school at the University of Missouri, majoring in business management with an emphasis in risk management. I have a passion for tackling complex challenges and look forward to bringing that energy into the workforce when I graduate in 2021. During my time in college, I've been really involved in the local and greater community. I've helped drive engagement with my sorority through holding various leadership roles and participated in 2 global brigades that help strengthen the international community's economic systems. Interned with both Gallagher and Marsh, first focusing on the health and benefits side of things, and then pivoting to learn a bit more about property and casualty during my time at Marsh. I'm eager to connect with professionals like yourself and learn more about the exciting opportunities within the industry. I would love to grab a cup of coffee with you to see how my exposures, my skills might align with your organization's needs.
So in Audrey's pitch, right? I was making some notes as she was talking. She should need to be prepared to answer questions about, so tell me more about your sorority. Perhaps which one were you in? What did you learn the most from? She talked about how she made an early career kind of shift from more health and benefits to property casualty. How are those different? What have you learned along the way? So just always be prepared that when you talk about yourself, you'll probably get a follow-up question that takes it a little deeper. Audrey, do you want to give us a more extended version?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Here's the more extended. So same concept. I'm just going to elaborate really just a little bit more. All right. And I'm going to also do it as if I'm in an interview. So I feel like this for me came up a lot at the beginning of an interview, and it's like, okay, here we go. I have to talk about myself. All right. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Audrey Streifler, and I'm a senior at the University of Missouri, majoring in business management with an emphasis in risk management. What sets me apart is my ability to tackle challenges and ability to thrive in fast-paced environments, both of which I look forward to bringing with me when I officially join the workforce upon graduation in 2021. Over the course of my 4 years, I've said yes to every opportunity. Here on campus, I've held many leadership positions within my sorority, such as the Director of Sisterhood, Director of Formal Recruitment, and Academic Chair. Mizzou also has a group called Global Brigades, which follows the United Nations model of sustainable communities, which I've partnered with on 2 different trips, one to Honduras and one to Panama, to engage with their local communities for sustainable economic growth. While planning these trips, I also participated as the finance chair of the organization, collecting dues and raising funds for local charities in Colombia as well. During the summer, I spent my time interning as a producer at Gallagher within their health and benefits practice. In the following year, I participated in an internship with Marsh, which only served to expand upon my previous knowledge, as I was able to tackle the property and casualty side of the insurance industry as well. I'm really looking forward to learning more about your business and answering any questions you may have throughout the course of the interview, as I would be honored to obtain a full-time offer to join your team as I graduate college here in the next few months. Now, I know we're only within the first few minutes of my interview, but please do let me know if there's anything I did not touch on within my background, or if there's anything I mentioned that you would like to hear more about.
Fantastic. And so you heard how Audrey gave a few more additional examples, right? She talked a little bit about how she looks at things. And this is where, if it was an interview, and this isn't an interview 101 session, but a lot of these same questions might come up in just informational meetings or networking. You would get tell me about a time when you had to deliver on a project that was part of a fast-paced environment, or tell me about a time when you said yes to something without knowing fully what you were jumping into. How did you make that leap of faith? Okay. So just always be prepared to think through the next question. And when you're saying, I handle things these ways, have an example. Okay. All right. Next slide. So this is one of my favorite tips, and I know several of you on this call have heard this before. It's advice I give to all of my mentees, to all of our interns, rising professionals, my daughters, is most people love to talk about the things they love. Nothing brings people joy than being asked about what they care about. So it is also a great tip where if you're introverted like me, it takes some of the pressure off of you to prepare for what you're going to say next because you've got the person engaged and feeling really connected. So get people talking about what they love. It's an opportunity also where you're trying to build connections to learn from someone. And if you're interviewing, it's a great way to find out about the company culture. Are you a fit? What are the industry's challenges? What do you want to pursue? And gain advice for your future. Audrey, what are some example questions that you find are really effective?
Sure thing. Well, Melissa and I have listed here a couple of questions that we find really valuable to keep in our back pocket in order to connect with others. Having a script and coming prepared with these questions, and also doing your research on who you're meeting with ahead of time can really help you frame up these questions in a different way. That way you're getting exactly what you want out of this conversation and it's beneficial for both parties involved. So just to go through them, even a great question for Melissa. How did you get into risk management and insurance?
Okay, I'm not going to give the I fell into it or I had a family in it line. When I was growing up, my hometown of Baraboo, Wisconsin flooded. Portions of the downtown area one summer were under 6 feet of water. And that's not hyperbole. I actually went back and looked at the geologic records. It was that much. Individuals in my youth group actually canoed some of the downtown store parking lots. The town was devastated, and I saw how FEMA came in and quite literally and figuratively bailed out the town. So I went to college to go into insurance because I wanted to be part of the solution. I wanted to help people at their most vulnerable.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. That second question too, we have, I mean, Melissa's a great example of this. What are you working on right now that excites you most, that gets, the joy going? And they will associate, whoever you're speaking with will associate that joy with their conversation with you. And we all saw how, Melissa lit up about speaking about how she got into the industry. It's practicing that same thing with all these questions. So where'd you go to university? Soliciting advice, what are some courses I should take? And what is one thing you wish you knew when you started in the industry? People like to give advice, people want to help, and the industry is ready with open arms to do so. All right. So you
Someone
want to,
did post
oh,
in the
sorry.
no, you're fine. Someone did post in the chat box. Candy posted that she loved this tip. And I 100% agree. I think a lot of the questions that you had listed on that slide are just fantastic conversation starters that, will help to reduce some of that awkwardness, as you mentioned, or as you mentioned as well, Melissa, if anyone, happens to be introverted, I think having that list of questions absolutely helps. So thank you. I did want to pause for a minute here to see if anyone has any questions. Please feel free to use the Zoom raise hand feature. Fantastic. Samuel, go for it.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Samuel from Ghana. Okay, so I have this question.
Fantastic.
Now, with networking, how do you bridge the gap between you and somebody you met on public LinkedIn? When it's face to face, it's easy for you to interact with the person. Now, when you meet the person on social media, what are the strategies you can use to bridge the gap to know the person well and the other party also gets to know you well?
That's a great question. Okay. And one of the first things I recommend, and I know there was a session probably a couple ago on kind of building out your LinkedIn profile. First of all, make sure you have a good LinkedIn profile so that when you try to connect with someone, they know you are a real human being looking to connect and that it's not just some mocked up, profile that may be looking then to connect with you to sell something, right? So first of all, make sure you have a good profile so they go, oh, I understand why this person is looking to connect with me, okay? The second thing I would do is when I send them a note, find something and give them a reason to want to connect. Just, hey, I saw your profile and wanted to connect may not get the response you're looking for of, I'm a student, I'm studying this. I'm very interested in going into this area. It looks like you may be an expert in this space. Could we connect so I could learn more? Okay. So not too different from your initial 30-second verbal pitch, but explain why you're reaching out, make it sincere, show you did your research, and have a very reasonable ask. Okay. Asking for a job is probably not the best way to get them to respond, but people would love to help you learn more.
Fantastic. Great question. I do see another hand that's raised. Alain. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I love your shirt, by the way. Oh my goodness. I love it.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alon Badaru. I'm in Sacramento, California. I work for Archie Specialty. I guess my question is for anyone here on the panel is when you are networking and you want to not see everyone in the room, but make sure you at least get around to all four corners at least, what's a good way to excuse yourself and go on to the next conversation?
Oh, is that not the art of networking?
True.
And I would be lying if I told you I did it perfectly every single time. This is a little bit where sometimes as a leader, it helps to be in this position, but it also sometimes helps if you're communicating and networking in a group, right? Because if you're able to introduce the person you're talking to someone new to talk with, it makes your exit a little bit more graceful, right? So there's different ways you can go about it, but it's also helping the person you're talking to connect with someone new so that it's a natural dance and you move on to that next conversation. Danny, I see you. Great to see you, Danny.
Hi everyone, great to see you guys. I had a question about when you're having that introductory meeting, the best way to balance having a script of questions and being well prepared versus just letting the conversation flow naturally. Because I feel like I struggle when I come very well prepared. It feels like I'm kind of robotic in the conversation and not actively listening.
That's a great question. And part of it is having those questions more in your back pocket for when things get quiet. Okay. You don't always have to follow the same script. You should always be prepared with being able to communicate who you are, right? And particularly if you've done your research, it doesn't hurt to ask some of those questions you had initially thought of, but keep those scripted questions in your back pocket for if there's a silence or if you need a little bit of a mental break. Audrey, do you have thoughts? I welcome your perspectives too.
No, I totally echo everything you said, Melissa. And Danny, I would add for you and anyone else on the call, you're not alone in that thought. Because I've certainly been there. You're meeting someone for the first time, right? It can feel a little weird, but having those questions in your back pocket for if there is a silence, also, silence isn't bad. You can let it pause for a minute. Don't freak out if it happens either. But having them there, I think, gives, peace of mind. And then just, keep it conversational unless you do need to whip out those additional questions. So no, that's a great question. Thank you, Danny.
And I see we have a question. Jackson, I'll get yours in a second. I see we have a question in the sidebar. How can we effectively maintain and nurture professional relationships on LinkedIn without making it seem awkward or intrusive when reaching out to connections periodically? I have a few ways that I do it. First of all, celebrate successes. If you see that someone moved into a new role, say, don't just hit like or the automatic type that says congrats. Use that as a moment to send them a message on LinkedIn, just being like, I am so thrilled for you. Would love to hear more about your new role. The same thing with anniversaries, right? Like, wow, 5 years at that organization. You must be doing great things. Would love to chat. Okay. So recognizing them, celebrating them, and then saying, how can we do more together is my most common way. The other is I love to find an article or a headline that I think someone might find interesting, right? Like I have a dear risk management friend who could be the best person I've ever known at understanding game theory within risk management. And if I read a book and I think she'll like it, I'll send her a note being like, oh my, have you read this book? It blew me away. connecting with someone on a personal level and shared interest and showing, hey, I thought of you, that's what counts.
Absolutely. I would again echo Melissa, but just to add on, I think it being genuine and doing those reach outs where you've listened to someone, you know about them and you're going to send them something that you know will interest them, I think goes a long way in showing that you're hearing them, you understand them as a person. And I also think just offering, bringing some of the table that you can offer and flipping the script in that way is really powerful and will solicit a better response.
Jackson?
Thank you. My question is, how do I know how you talked about how some people in the industry have been in the industry for like 25 to like 30 years, right? And it can be intimidating, but this is kind of like a two-part question. How do you like being like maybe one of the younger people in the office talking to people in different groups like within your firm? How do you like resonate with the people that have been there for so long? And how do you like present yourself in a manner that's like confident but not like arrogant? Because I mean, like you're the young person maybe coming in the office and you're just trying to learn, but you don't want to kind of bring too much, be too much when you're introducing yourself to people who have been a part of the firm for a while.
So I have a few tips, and Audrey, I'll also make sure that you provide lots of feedback on this. So I am one of those people who's been in the industry for 25 years, so raising my hand on that. And what I can tell you is broadly, as I speak with folks who have been in the industry for years, is we want you to reach out and ask questions. Okay. Many people talk about developing next generation of leaders. Ensuring the knowledge they have really is a base for a legacy. Okay. So be curious, ask a question, but also be mindful of time, right? Just saying, hey, at some point I'd love to grab a cup of coffee or learn to hear a little bit about what you're working on. Ask for a reasonable amount of time, realizing they probably can't like meet with you in the next 10 minutes, but maybe in a couple weeks out they could. So I'd love to grab a cup of coffee sometime over the next couple of weeks when you have time, right? And maybe highlight a topic you'd like to hear from them on. It's showing respect, curiosity, but also that just desire to really learn from them. Audrey, what's on your mind on that?
So I'd like to, I guess, touch more so on how connecting, because I totally understand where you're coming from. I think, it boils down to at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all human beings, we all, we're working, but we are people, we all go home and we all have families. And so I think it's just kind of simplifying it almost down to we are going to have something in common no matter what. And getting that conversation flowing, I think you can find a middle ground more easily than you probably think. And just keeping your mind open, I think being an active listener is super helpful to kind of identify those commonalities you might have with someone despite their age.
And we do have another question. Chirag Deep, go ahead.
Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate your insights. Melissa, just like you, I'm also an introvert at heart. So coming here is a little bit of a struggle. But I kind of had a question more towards making that connection. So you said that it's important that we bring up a personal connection to the person we're talking to. I find that I personally tend towards more professional connection. Like it's really hard to bring your personal side to it. So I would be interested in hearing from you. How do you go about balancing that? And do you actually have to?
So many of the connections I make are professional interests, right? I struggle with the same thing. I love my family, but it's a little bit of mine, right? It's sometimes that personal piece is hard to share. But so you can still be very focused on the professional and have a deep connection with someone. Like the example I gave of a risk management friend. She's very interested in game theory and risk management. That is a purely professional interest, but I can connect with her on that basis. If someone has a professional passion, an area of expertise or interest, that's where you can really still connect on the topic. if you're less comfortable talking about your personal life. Audrey, I'd welcome your perspectives as well.
Certainly. I think I think it's a matter of managing your energy quite a bit, which I know Melissa's been a great resource for me as well, because I'm an extrovert at heart, but the social battery runs out pretty quick. So I think managing your energy is really is key for this piece, and just understanding, you know, if you need 15 minutes maybe in between something to just, you know, think through, digest, maybe just relax for a second, you know, that's okay, and you're not alone in that. So I know Melissa's going to talk more about that here soon, so I'm excited for her to share.
And these are just resources that we will make sure, obviously this will be like in what gets posted. These are just some resources if you're looking to find different networking events. Audrey, why don't we actually pop to the next slide? Because I think it actually
That's the
segues
perfect
nicely.
segue.
So, okay, making it work for you. Managing your energy. This is a huge part of it. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you know a little secret. From 1 o'clock to 1:30 Central Time today, when this is done, I actually blocked my calendar just to recharge, to think through what we talked about here, what I learned from your questions, reflect on what I might have done differently, done better, and also get ready for the afternoon of meetings to come. One of the things that Outlook and the tools we have today, all of the different calendars, Google calendars, all those, we get really good at managing our time. Sometimes we forget to manage our energy, okay? So this is understanding that the energy you bring is the energy you receive. If you're coming in really low energy, someone's going to feel that, and they might return that. So plan in advance, okay? This is where, if you know you're going into a meeting, spend 30 minutes, put on your calendar doing the research, go in, spend 30 minutes thinking through what you discovered. And as you look at your calendar, it's, if you're best in the morning, schedule your one-on-one coffees in the morning. That's what I do, okay? So making sure that you're ready really to bring your best self to every conversation. And then we did already hit on this, you know, managing your energy, managing your time on the secondary basis, and then value your connections. I am so proud and sincerely excited when I see someone that's in my network succeed. There are so many challenges we face. This is one of those where the pie of opportunities continues to grow. Celebrate your relationships, cultivate them. And, you know, there are connections in my network that I have had since the day I stepped foot at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's powerful. Are we basically wrapped for the main slides, Audrey?
Yes, and I guess my room thinks so too. The lights just turned on.
So what additional questions do you have for us? It's been an honor to speak with each of you. What questions do you have?
Yeah, and I think Samuel might have a question. He had raised his hand earlier. So Samuel, I don't know if you can hear us, or if you're in a space where you'd like to unmute and ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so initially I was asking, how do you develop a deep connection with someone you met on social media? How do you get to create that bridge that gap between you and that person in that distant land? That's what I was trying to ask. Thank you.
Gotcha. I see. I think you might have dropped off when you were going through that question. But any additional thoughts or comments now that he's able to rejoin us? So when you meet someone on social media, how do you then bridge that gap, right? How do you go from like just randomly connecting with someone on LinkedIn to actually building a relationship with them?
Well, and this is where one of the things that we highlight is try to wherever possible. And I realize if you are sometimes remote, different geographies, it can be hard, but take it off LinkedIn, right? Find a way to connect via Teams, via Zoom. In person is obviously ideal, but not always practical. So find something to talk about, like that topic of conversation, and then find a way to take it beyond just the Zoom.
Fantastic. So hopefully that answers your question. Samuel, and I absolutely love all the representation that we have here today. Hopefully, you guys have been keeping up with all the hundreds of messages in the chat box and all the LinkedIn URLs that were being popped in there. So hopefully, you're utilizing this opportunity to scroll through and add people on LinkedIn. And a warm welcome also to all of those that have dialed in from outside of USA. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but there are people here with us that are joining us from Ghana, from I saw Colombia, Mozambique, India. So we especially welcome all of you. And I see Jenna has her hand up. Do you have a question? Would you like to say hi, Jenna? Oh,
Yes, I'll say hi, but also I just made a mistake. I think I just clicked instead of us looking at the chat. Sorry. Sorry
you're
about that.
fine. We are happy to hear from you anytime, Jenna. Thank you for being here today.
Well, and
So
for
yeah,
those of you who
please.
don't know Jenna, she is one of the most incredible risk professionals I know. I am just honored that she joined.
That's very sweet of you to
She could give
say.
a master class in networking, by the way. But
Thank
this is
you. That's
actually a
great.
great example, where you continue to see people throughout your career and we celebrate each other. This is a team sport. What other questions do you guys have? Oh, I see one. What are some don'ts? Oh, I don't like ending on a negative, okay?
Don't not be yourself. That's what I would say.
That's a good one. I like that.
Flip
Yes,
the
Yeah.
script on
don't be.
that.
And I know this sounds impossible, but don't be afraid. You're not alone, okay? That's one of the things I highlight all the time. And one of the things I love about this industry is you're not alone. People want you to be successful. Ask questions. If you just come with an open heart, an open mind, and open ears, you'll be embraced.
That's great.
All right.
I
Do you
love
mind if
that.
I share one quick, it's not a
Please do.
don't. I see I'm jumping in front of Patrick too. Sorry. I actually got an email just this morning from a student who maybe last fall, I can't remember when it was, she asked me for a letter of recommendation, which I was happy to provide to her because I worked with her on a project. She interned for us. It wasn't in risk management, but still I was like able to speak to her work. And she wrote me this morning and said that she was grateful for the recommendation, and sadly she missed the deadline to submit her application because she had a mix-up of time zones, and she just felt like so guilty for having requested the recommendation and received it and then like making a mistake. And what I loved about the fact, and I could tell it took her a little bit of time to kind of work through either like grieving the mistake or working up the courage to, write to me and tell me that that happened. And to Melissa's point, we're a team. And so like I was so happy to be able to write back to her and tell her like it's okay, like you obviously have been very hard on yourself about this. Like there's no hard feelings on my end that I put time into the recommendation and then she made a mistake. Like I would be happy to modify it for her for future opportunities and let her know that. So I guess it's not a don't, it's more of a do. But like when you have things like that where it's like, oh, I haven't written to this person, or like maybe they offered me a coffee chat and then I didn't respond. And now I kind of want to circle back with them, but it feels so awkward. Just like work up the courage and admit, I'm sorry that this fell off the radar and I got busy, or even if it's been a long time, that come back to them. And there may be some that then can't or won't like offer up their time a second time. But most people will understand. Everybody's been there. So just thought I might share that.
Thank you, Jana. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that does highlight something so important is don't be afraid to take a stretch assignment, try something new, and know it might not be perfect. You might make a mistake, but you're not alone. There's people who will support you. And we want you to grow. We want you to be successful.
Absolutely. Any final questions, thoughts, or comments before we wrap up this session? Just want to make sure everyone has had a chance to ask a question. All right, I don't see any additional raised hands or anything in the chat box. So, yeah, thank you again, Melissa and Audrey. If everyone could give them like a round of applause or a virtual round of applause, that would be amazing. But thank you so much for being here with us today, for hanging out with us for an hour and sharing your knowledge. We truly appreciate it. For all of the students that are here with us, as you know, over the summer, we do this on a weekly basis. So next week's session is going to be Thursday, July 25th. It is going to be from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Our presenting company is going to be AF Group, and we're going to receive some technical training where we will learn all about the basics of workers' compensation insurance. So it's going to be a Work Comp 101 boot camp that we're going to go through next week. So if you're not quite sure where to register, definitely check out our website. We have a tab for the Spencer webinar series, or you can see all of the upcoming sessions all the way through to February of next year, where you can go ahead and register and put these sessions on your calendar. So again, Melissa, Audrey, thank you so much for being here with us. And for all the students, I will catch you next week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.